Hey everybody, welcome to this week's show. Really excited about today's guest. But first and foremost, if you're jumping on here, if you're the first time viewer or a long time viewer, do me a huge favor. For the guest we have today, please hit that like button, share it with your friends, get us out there to a broader audience. Helps us out. It's free to do. So who we've got here on here today is he's worked alongside Jackson. He's been kind of on the front lines with the design process on the Coosa X, primarily here recently. And we'll talk about some other ideas and other projects he's been on, obviously. But really excited to have him on here today. So it's Chris Funk, he also known as the Feral One on YouTube. So if you haven't checked out his channel on YouTube, Instagram, all of that, definitely check him out. He does some really interesting stuff, kind of does a lot of variety, which I love. But if you just like watching dudes just fishing from kayaks, again, it's definitely worthwhile there. So I'm going to go ahead and bring him and his wife, Angie, on. How's it going?
Hey.
So we talked a little bit there, and we were kind of joking that we like to get all the really good conversation done before we start recording here. But just kind of starting out, just, other than what I just did there, introduce yourselves and, what got you guys started both in kayaking?
Oh boy, you're going way back because we've been together a long time. We fixed to celebrate 31 years. So
Wow.
For us, of course, I'm Chris Funk. This is my bride Angie, y'all. My very much better half. But we years and years and years ago when we first got married, I mean, for us, tater chips was a luxury item, So we didn't have money for boats and stuff like that. And I mean, my daddy had a boat, and I've had a boat, been around boats my whole life. But I asked her, not her. She got that in the
city girl.
she got that in the vows.
Yeah.
I'm her eternal bait boy. So, but she's my first mate. So we found a little old Coleman Ramex canoe, and I begged and begged and begged, and we started out in that, and I'd always had like little John boats and stuff like that, and so she had been, even back when I was chasing her big time before we got hitched. We went out in the little boats, but the canoe was our first boat together. So and I fell in love with it, man. I really did. Just honestly, the paddling, it was therapeutic to me. And we live in a fast-paced world, and I've always worked in noisy industrial environments. So even though we still to this day we have a power boat, I love just the sound of the water dripping off the paddle. So I fell in love with that, and we went from the Ramex. Then we went, as we got a little bit more money, we went into the Old Town, and we had Guide 147, the Discovery 169. I've had the 119. We've had the canoes. So we've had multiple iterations of canoes. And at the time with the Discovery 169, it was me, her, and Ethan, our boy, and all three of us in it. Well, once he got, I don't know, he was probably about 9. He started paddling it solo himself, that big old canoe, and because he'd been on the water since he was knee high to a blue heron. So we had him out there, and we just said, all right, we'll get him a kayak. So I ended up with a little, a cheap, one of a sit-in special that was just for him, right, and got him in that thing, and just he lit up. Like, literally, you saw. Like straight up back, I am captain of my own vessel. I am the man, and it was an amazing transformation. We couldn't stop him. So it was okay. Now it's going to be me and her in the canoe, and him in the kayak. Well, we messed up and let her sit in the kayak, and then it was like I literally saw her countenance change, and it was like, this.
It was fun.
And I'm like, well, crap. Now I'm out. Now I'm out a paddling partner. So I'm like, okay, y'all stay in that, and I'll stay in the canoe, which at the time was an 85-pound canoe, which to us was unbelievably heavy. And we now look at what some of the fishing kayaks weigh. But so we end up. I said, all right, I'll go get a kayak, and I went and did exactly like we try to tell everybody else. I ran straight to a big box store. I said, oh, this is mine. It's weighted for what I weigh. I'm going to jump in it. And it was January. I was in jeans, I jumped in the water. The water shot up through the scuppers.
Yep.
It soaked me to death, and I near about froze. My britches were frozen before I could get that kayak back to the store to return it. I'm like, no. So I got back in the canoe, and I stayed in the canoe for another probably year or more. And we were down at I was Black Creek Outfitters.
Yes.
And I know you talked yesterday about your favorite boats, some of that you've had in the past. And I end up getting a Native Magic 145, and I called her and asked permission because you
Yeah.
spend $1,000 on a boat, you better ask first,
Yeah.
And you're getting a no. I understand. Yeah, yeah. Sometimes it's, hey, guess what I got us?
Yeah, that's more like not permission.
Right.
It's kind of like, guess what I just did.
Yeah.
But that's where we literally got into that Native. We paddled some of that together, and by that time, I think she was running. Oh gosh, it wasn't the Dirigo because you had an Old Town Dirigo. The one before that,
Was it the Pungo?
yeah, Pungo. She had a Pungo, which was a great paddling.
Yeah.
And we just kind of moved up from there, and
because I had to have a sit inside.
Yep.
I did not like a sit on top was scary to me. Out of my element.
She did not. Well, it's funny how things have grown through the years, and she's grown through the years. But her whole reason for getting on the water was just to spend time with me. Yeah. I mean, and that's we probably as a married couple, if we could give anybody any little bit of wisdom, it's just to spend the time
together.
Communicate, if you're paddling either with each other in tandem or side by side, you're talking to each other, you don't have a phone in your hand, you're not on a computer, that kind of stuff just makes such a huge difference in your relationship together. So not to mention all the cool stuff you get to see. So I know that's probably a long way around to get to, but that's where we got.
No, that's great. That's great. So like with me and her, we met through dogs. So we're both huge dog people. Funny story, she was my teacher in college. I was one of them old heads that went to college late.
I'm hot the teacher.
Yeah. So it was never anything, obviously, when I was in school there. But once I was out of her class, we were talking about, she was talking about volunteering at the Humane Center. I was like, oh, that sounds really cool. I just picked up my dog from there, and the dog at the time's name was Atlas. He was a huge pit bull, and one of the best dogs I've ever had. And
pictures behind you.
Do what?
His pictures behind
you.
you.
Yeah, that's the shadow box there. And she would say like, well, oh yeah, and I said like, well, his name was Jeff at the shelter. The shelter dogs always have those. It's like they have so many dogs. They're just, this is Jeff and Kevin and Todd and Timmy in the back. So I told her like, Jeff, she goes, oh my God. I was like, I'm so glad. And then we kind of started talking from that. It's like, man, his name's Atlas now. He's kind of I wouldn't say aggressive, but just really anxious at the shelter. When we got him home, I said, as soon as I got him in my Jeep, he was just a completely different animal. He was just nice. Because I was thinking like, man, I'm gonna have to work so much with this dog to get him where he needs to be. And I really didn't. I had a pug, and we had another one at the time. It was like a little, I don't even know what that thing was. It was something we'd taken in from a different person. And this is before we had met, obviously, but he acclimated into that household, and he wasn't the top dog. The pug was, which is kind of funny. But yeah. So we just kind of talked from there. She paddle boarded. I was doing insurance at the time, but I grew up fishing on the Buffalo River, out of a really, really heavy aluminum John boat that I would just throw in the back of the truck, and I'd have baling wire all over it to hold it in, very much like we do kayaks now. And like you were saying, we grew up poor. I always like to say we had to save up to be poor, but because when I got that boat, that was a big deal. My uncle had bought it for me, and I did work for him to kind of pay off. It was like $100, but still, I mean, me having that, I'm sitting there, I'm sanding it down, I'm painting it, I spray canned it silver, and that was one of the coolest things I ever had, because I grew up bank fishing, and being able to get into that and access parts of the water that
it opens up all new horizons.
Yeah. And so fast forward to, the last few years, kayaking is just completely different than it was even 10 years ago. 10 years.
Right.
I tell people 5 years from now or 10 years from now, we'll probably be laughing at the things we're doing today.
Probably so. We started, and nobody could ever call us pro anything, but we started, with Jackson 11 years ago, and that was. But I mean, I had been a hardcore fisherman and a river fisherman, and we call ourselves canoodists, but I was a canoodist. Well, she doesn't, but I mean, I was a canoodist for 30 years. So we consider ourselves, I guess, to have gotten in when it was still wasn't cool. We didn't know that many people that did what we do. And it's amazing how much, I guess, even social media has influenced folks to where, now they realize, and that's part of what we still want to do is to show people what you're capable of. Because we're surrounded by, an incredible creation that people don't even like. Folks that live here don't even realize how many eagles and ospreys and, and even minks that walk up and down the riverbank and different things that we get to see. And we're just blessed with being surrounded with. Don't even realize it's here in their own backyards. And
I didn't.
Well, as I said, for us and for her,
all new to me.
all new to her. And now, as we're riding down the road, she's the one that's spotting all the hawks and all the birds of prey and knowing what they are. And it's funny seeing that evolution of change as it comes along with the way and how she's growing. Like, even I can very vividly remember her favorite things are rooster tail, and I just know that she's going to catch fish, so we throw rooster tails. She throws rooster tail. Hot pink one, that it doesn't work for me, but she murders on a hot pink rooster tail. And she said, Chris, she said, I did exactly what the guy on the show. She said, I could see the fish following it, and I slowed it down, and bam, he was on it. I'm like, yeah, she's hooked big time now.
I do have one question. How did you keep from killing each other when you were in the same canoe?
Oh, it's funny you say that, because that is literally, when people say a divorce boat, I just want to scream. It's like, maybe you ought to paddle it before you get married. That would be the good test. And honestly, for us, I guess it's our relationship. One is you always have to put the chubby person in the back. You see a lot of folks, unfortunately, their wives may outweigh them, and they're like, yeah, baby, I'm going to be in the back. No, I'm sorry, pal. If your bride outweighs you, she needs to be in the back of the boat. You need to be on the front.
It's just true.
So knowing the dynamics of how it works, and then just like I said, it's an honor system. She knows when I'm driving hard with the paddle, to watch my paddle strokes, and you'll see her look back. Like, even on the videos we've shot, you'll see her look back and she's trying to catch sink. And that's because it's up to me to provide the propulsion and the steering. She's helping with that, but it's up to me as the motor back there to get the job done. And she'll look back and she'll honor. It's kind of like two dogs on point. One's going to honor the other one. And she honors my paddle stroke, and she stops, looks, catches up, and then we're back into what we need to do. Yeah. And it's all communication. And I think if folks would communicate more, and humility has a lot to do with it.
It does. It does.
And I am not the easiest person to get along with.
We don't always agree. Let's get that out of the way. It's not ever perfect, but we get through those parts when they get a little rough.
And I think what she was meaning too, like by me, killing each other, is we give each other a lot of we joke around with each other a lot.
Oh yeah.
And like us in a tandem. And I think it'd be a great video, but
it would be hilarious because I think we'd be hitting each other.
Yeah, I would be. I'd be tapping her on the head with a paddle or splashing her with it. And
now he's done that. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And I like to paddle right beside the bank because I want to see the fish on the bed. Yes. I want to see the structure. I want to see the snakes in the grass and stuff like that. Her, not so much. So I have to kind of weigh that out as to, all right, I'll get close enough to see what I want to see, but not where she's going to feel like she's in trouble. And even at that, in what we paddle in our solo boats, she'll still stay to the outside of me. Of course, I'm always up in the thick stuff. And then moving water, I don't put her through anything that she's uncomfortable with. That's one thing that guys need to realize is like, hey, don't risk your relationship or your wife's health on the water just because of your macho-ness. I mean, I'll ask her, hey, do you want to run it? And like even when we did the X, y'all know that she was one of the poster child for the X when we ran that big whitewater. She did not plan to run that. She was not going to do it. She's like, nope, I'm not going to do it. And she sat over on the rock for a while. And Miss Jean, who I saw comment earlier, Miss Jean was there with us, and they had the discussion. Said, look, you can either sit on the bench or you can get in the game. And at worst, what's going to happen? We took the gear out of the boat. Said, what's going to happen? If you wreck, I'll get you. I'll come to you. And
wouldn't be the first time I wrecked.
Yep, it wouldn't be the first time somebody's rolled a boat. So we said, all right, so we're going to roll it. We're going to run. Let you run it. And it was her choice to run it. And doggone, she liked it snuff. She went and run it twice, and ended up being one of the shots we used for the marketing for that boat. Nice. So it was kind of awesome,
Yeah, I remember my first trip in the X. We were it was last April or March. It was late March.
It was March.
And we just got some high water, and there's a low water bridge around here. There's a little creek called Crooked Creek. It's a really good smallmouth fishery. And there's an area where it's a low water bridge that had been washed out. Well, all the water funnels into there, and it kind of creates a really nice shoal when the water's high enough. So we had the Coosa X, we had the Bonafide RVR, we had the Liquid Logic Kiowa 10.5, and then we had a Wilderness Systems Aspire, the sit-in kayak. And I was in the Coosa X. I was looking forward to it, and again, what I always tell people is, when you get it to the water, it's a heavy boat, but when you get it to the water, it really feels a lot lighter, very, very nimble. It's very deceptive. That's the best way I can describe it. And over it, and I was just like, okay, I just went through it, and then I turned it back, and I'm paddling it into current right in front of the shoal. I'm like, man, I was like, I can really keep this thing really straight. It's really, really nice. And then the nose got turned just a little bit, and then I started going sideways and then doing that. And then just the current caught the edge just enough where it just flipped me over. And
so you probably stopped paddling, didn't you?
Yeah, exactly.
See, if you stop paddling and moving water, you lose your stability.
That's exactly what happened too. So you could see like my chest mount. You could see all the, the kayak up here, and you can see all the, like, I'm looking at fish and stuff on the replay, of course, because I'm scouting. I'm always scouting.
Right.
So, but yeah, I mean, and that was what I always like to tell people is when they get a new kayak, whether it's something that just came out or something that's been around for years and years, is sometimes practicing in a calm environment, maybe even tipping it over or falling out of it,
right?
Just getting used to the limitations, like your secondary and your primary and all that, because they're all different.
The best part,
go ahead.
The best part about that trip, that was my first time on a river.
Yeah, that was. Yeah.
And so that shoal, I was like, I'm just going to put in below it.
She was scared to death. Yeah.
I totally because I am not a whitewater fan. I bought a whitewater boat, and with the entire thought and purpose of learning how to do that, just to be able to get to fish that area, just a fishing spot. And I actually took a lesson, and 300 rolls out of I got 3 out of 300 tries that I actually got back around in the Jackson Traverse, and then. My coach says, hey, we're going to go run the whole thing. I'm like, wait a minute, this has class 4s in it. And he's like, yeah, we're going to go run the whole thing. So it's like, wait a minute. And so I spent the rest of the day running up to class 4s here on Cut Bait, which is the biggest rapid we have, which can be a 5, but 4 when we ran it. And there's one of them we didn't run. He says, yeah, it has retentive properties. I said, that means your body stays there and your soul keeps going. he says, yeah. So, and the whole time, every time I got to where I was paddling and my hands gripped. So, cause I'm like, all right, that's where they're going to find my body. Oh, that's a good place to die. I think I'll drown over there, And I said, this is not for me. I got too much poultry in my blood for that. And my hands hurt for probably 3 months after that from squeezing the life out of my paddle. And I'm like, nope. But the X has allowed me, man. I go out and wreck and I'll wreck on purpose because I want to push it and make myself comfortable. Like for me, even eddying, going up to the current lean it hard, dig that paddle, push that edge up on, and then slide across, and then get to the other side, lean back the other way, put that edge up, slide into that smooth water. And I mean, in no other boat that I've ever been in have I been as comfortable as I am in the X doing that. And it's just it's a blast. And yeah, it's a heavy boat, but I will tell you this. And you, as a person with access to lots of boats, can help me with this. I've got a major project for you.
Okay.
There's a manufacturer right now that I bought a boat from that was sold as 63 pounds. And I bought that boat because I wanted a super light 63-pound boat. That boat is 75 pounds. That boat weighs more than the bite angler. And that's an unfortunate thing. I think, honestly, for you that has access to lots of boats, and I think every manufacturer out there that does that ought to be ashamed of themselves. That's smoke and mirrors. I mean, Jackson, when they say a weight of a boat, that's every stitch, every rivet, every sticker, every, the seat, you name it, it's all in there. Unless if it says without seat, but it'll give you the weight with the seat. I know Bonafide has a couple they show without the seat and with the seat.
Yeah, and or fitted hull and fully rigged. I'm just I think and when weight capacity is another thing that is just
well, I'll tell you that same boat, when you hit that weight capacity on that one, it is all you want to put in it. I promise you, it is all you want, because that's one thing that I love doing on my videos is overloading boats. You tell me it can tow 425, we're gonna put 425 in it, see what happens.
That was one of my favorite videos you did with the and if those of you watching haven't checked it out, please do so. So Chris took a Coosa X and he put, so the official weight capacity is 525 or 425. Yes, and you put 525 in it, and to my knowledge, if I remember right, the water hadn't even come up to the scupper hole.
It was amazing. It still had. Of course, we also put me and Jameson both sitting in it at one time, and that was pushing way over the.
So and from my experience with Jackson, I would argue that Jackson's weight capacities actually are kind of on the conservative side.
They are. So, they're more concerned about performance. When you hit that weight, now you can feel it. And people say something paddles like a barge, and I'm like, man, usually, and I've got a video on that too, on why your boat paddles like a barge. And it's 90% of the time, it's either you bought a cheap paddle or you have no paddle skill whatsoever. So you get a good paddle and a little bit of paddle skill, you'd be surprised at what the cheapest of boats will paddle like. It'll amaze you. But then again, if you load something up to what the capacity is, like I said, in Jackson, when you hit that level, now your performance is starting to degrade. You can start feeling it, and that's I like that. I mean, because I don't want to push something to a safety point. Now that first boat that I bought, I was beyond a safety point at just my body weight. I didn't even have fishing gear in it. I mean, I sat in that sun gun and water shot up through the scuppers, and there was that much water inside of the boat. Now tell me what that would have done if you'd have hit a rapid. You would have rolled that thing in a New York minute. So
absolutely. So that's a good segue for my next question. So I'm really big on buy once, cry once, buy your second kayak first, all of that stuff. But talk about the importance of a quality paddle. I've seen the videos that you guys did on this, and you guys both did a phenomenal job on that. It doesn't mean everybody's got to go out and buy like the gold-plated paddle, and I see it all the time. And when I talk about it, I talk about efficiency and speed, which is efficiency in kayaking, but talk about selecting a paddle and what somebody gets with a quality paddle, because why would you buy a quality kayak and then cheap out on your paddle?
Right.
You know what I mean?
And you are 100% correct. And I will tell any person the thing that they need to do to show them the importance of a good paddle is go out and paddle all day long with your paddle. Moving water, flat water, I don't care. All day long, go paddle with your paddle and find somebody with an Angler Pro and say, hey, let me hold that a minute. That's how I ended up with one.
Yeah.
And it was the same because I had an inexpensive paddle, and it was, of course, we've also broken some inexpensive paddles. And I know Branches, man, they stand behind, their stuff.
Really do.
Like, unbelievable. And I have put our pro anglers, which, yes, it is not cheap. But to me, there's, a seat. I'm going to have the best that I can get.
Yep.
A paddle, I'm going to have the best I can get. A PFD, I'm going to have the best I can get because that's what I'm in contact with more than anything for the whole day. So it's going to be in my hands, on my body, and on my hind end. I want the best that I possibly can get. And you don't have to have the Angler Pro, but that Angler Ace is a really good option for a little less. And then it used to be the Slice Classic. I mean, that was a good paddle.
Yeah.
The reason we went with the Angler Pros is just totally for that huge. I mean, it's like 107 square inches of no flex on the blade. And that was what I saw because I was fishing on the river and I'd been chasing. I think Henry Jackson, who's the Flint River keeper, was also a member of Team Jackson. He's the reason we actually ended up on the Jackson team a jillion years ago. But I had been chasing him on the river, and he had an Angler Pro, and I'm like, all right, there's no way I'm not spending $300 on a paddle. No. And let me tell you, when you put one of them in your hands after you've been paddling all day long with a skinny butt that flexes, because I mean, you've got a paddle that flexes. Well, you've lost a lot of your efficiency. You've lost all that effort that you're putting in that arm. You've lost half of it just because it's squirting around the paddle.
It's like running in mud. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Exactly. And I call the Angler Pro like adding mud grips to your boat. So, I mean, it's literally when you dig in with that Angler Pro and you pull on it, let me tell you, it's going to move that big BUTT and that big BOAT upriver wherever it needs to go, but it's going to do what it's supposed to. And that I know Werner makes some good paddles too, but I tell you, I will till the day that I will not paddle anymore, I will have an Angler Pro in my hands.
Nice. Yeah, and that was so our first paddle was the Bending Branches Whisper, which is a quality paddle, but it was kind of a starting point for us. But once we of course, once I started managing the store, because we were customers of the store before I started working there, and getting out and demoing a couple things. So now we've got our Bending Branches, Whisper, and then we got the Aquabound Manta Ray Hybrid, which we really like for what we do. And then now we've got some of the Angler Aces, and it's just that constant step up. So when I'm talking to somebody that says, hey, I always ask them, what kind of budget do you want to stay within? Well, if they tell me $1,000, I tell them like, okay, let's look at an $800 kayak and let's look at a $200 paddle. I said, you're going to thank me so much later when you do it that way than you do $1,000 on the kayak. And then you go down to the grocery store or the farm supply store and you buy, a plastic paddle that's going to flex.
Oh, look, I found these on clearance for $10. There's a reason they're on clearance. Yes.
Which is what happens a lot of time with newbie paddlers. And especially like me being a not very strong paddler, the difference of having a better, bigger, stronger paddle was unreal from just being able to keep up with him because he can out paddle me for days.
Yeah.
But that helped me kind of be able to be with him more because otherwise he left me far behind.
And lighter weight too. I mean, you're talking about a 28 ounce paddle, and that's one thing that I see a huge mistake that dudes do is they'll end up I'm buying the best for me, and either she gets my hand-me-downs or I'm going to buy the cheapest.
No, I mean we see it a lot. She's actually at the store a lot. And
man, it's like she should be on the pedestal, man. I'm here to tell you, dude. She's my queen, my princess. I'm taking care of this, and honestly, I want her to have a good time when she's with me. The funny thing is, she also likes to match everything. So all of her stuff, if you notice, it's extremely colorful, and it's got to be just right. And look, if it gets her on the water with me, I'll do it.
Two of the things actually I want to point out, paddling for me, when I noticed the big difference in paddles was when I was paddleboarding. I told him when I got my new paddleboard, I'm like, I want the Aquabound paddleboard paddle because I'm like, I don't think you understand like paddleboarding. It's a complete, like it's a whole body workout. You are standing up and my dog would come with me and she's another 60 pounds. And I'm like, I need a better paddle. And that was like a game changer.
Oh, yeah.
And that was one of the things is he's really good about making sure that I've got kind of the better setup most of the time.
I make you get the better stuff.
He does. He really does.
Yeah.
And I can honestly say, in my previous relationship, it was the exact opposite.
Right.
And it's amazing the difference. Like, even when I'm trying to be cheap, he's like, no, I don't want you to do that. And that has probably, when he says buy one, cry once, we've done the buy multiple times, and that just, we're done doing that now.
And to me, it's like, if you value her, you should think about that, because we see it on every Facebook group we're on. It's like, dudes, I'm this, this, or I'm going to go get me this $1,000 boat, and I'm going to go spend $250 at Walmart and get her this. It's like, dude, you ought to be hitting the head with that $250 boat. I'm sorry, but that's just it ain't right.
She, and you said it really well, that, and it's the same way with kids too, is if you want them to get into it, if you want them to enjoy it, putting them in something that you're just not sure about, is you've already made the decision. Like you said, if you're going to spend $300 on a kayak at a the grocery store or whatever, I mean, it's not going to perform well. It's not going to paddle well. It'll last a little bit, but that person's probably not going to like it. And the only thing that bothers me about it is they're going to think that all kayaks handle like that.
Oh yeah.
Right.
It's going to make them just not even want to do it. And so but I understand budget's a real thing. So I'm not downing anybody that, it's just not the budget to get a Jackson or a Hobie or Bonafide or Native or anything. That's not what I mean by that. But sometimes just adding $100, $150 to that budget gets you in a completely different class of kayak. And the same thing with your paddle. Sometimes it sucks to wait. I know that, but sometimes just adding that little bit to it gets you in a different level of enjoyment, I guess I could say.
And if the wait stops the waste, because I mean, if you had to wait a little while longer, maybe you didn't go get you a couple more Starbucks this week or whatever. I mean, just you got to think about what are you actually spending your money on, and what do you want to do? I mean, this is our drug. This is our entertainment, and this keeps us out of trouble. So we do not mind investing on that. And if you're going to save up for that little extra longer, because if you buy something cheap and you hate it, man, we've all done it. And that's the same thing with the do-it-yourself guys. I love the do-it-yourself guys. Don't get me wrong, but I did the milk crate. I made it out of wood. I built the carts out of steel. I built them out of PVC. I've done all that. And then I look at, all right, how much time did I spend? How much do I make? And that time off of what I make, and then I had to go get materials and build, and then it failed, or it wasn't, worth the flip or whatever. And it's like, man, if I could have just taken that money and invested it in a decent Yak Attack product, or whatever, and it would have been that buy once, cry once. It's a solid product. The development's already been done. Mm-hmm. They've already failed for us. I don't have to fail. They've already done it for us in product development. So that's why I'm moving. Like I said, I was the do-it-yourself man. I had racks made out of wood. I had racks made out of PVC. I almost dumped Ethan's Ultimate in the middle of the road on a PVC rack going to the swamp one day, because I hit a bump and that PVC rack blew apart on the trailer, and I had to use my pillow from camp to keep it off the tire till we could get to Lowe's and buy a 2x4 that I cut in the parking lot with an axe to tie the boat up. Yeah. Now, I've done the redneck trip. I promise you that.
Oh yeah. Oh man.
Yeah. That actually reminds us, or reminds me of something that we learned really quickly. If you don't have a good way to transport them, it's going to make it miserable, and you're never going to want to do it.
Yeah.
Or store them. That's another reason for that one we talked about in the green room. But that's a good option for folks that have an apartment and can't keep a boat, or can't, or don't have a truck or a rack or something like that. Yeah. If it takes me 6.5 minutes to blow it up, that's 6.5 minutes that I got to wait to get to the water, but still, that's a pretty good option if I don't have a truck, trailer, or a boathouse to store it in,
Yeah. So we did talk about that in the green room a little bit. I'm glad you said that. So talk to us about you guys just got an inflatable, and I know I did a video on it that did really well, and then Jameson's done some stuff on it, and so talk to us about the advantages, and maybe I know people get a little focused on inflatables and they're thinking like, you know, a pool raft or something, you know,
Right.
like these are not this is not your inner tube that you floated on as a
No.
kid down the river. These are really, really durable crafts. So talk a little bit about your experience with the inflatable.
Well, we're going to put it on the water tomorrow after church, but
We
we
got
just
it
got it.
today.
It just came in. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we just got it put together, and then we'll release that video on the unboxing and the lessons learned, getting everything inflated on it. But yeah, we are pumped, and I got to tell you, like, you know, Jeff Little, wonderful guy, who has, to me, he's like the inflatable guru of gurus.
Yeah.
And if anybody trusts an inflatable, that man puts his stuff through. I mean, it is unbelievable the torture that man puts gear through. And Jameson's the same way. I mean, Jameson's is unbelievable of what they do. And I watched, you know, Jeff had a video where the fella's slapping it with a crankbait, trying to stick hooks in it, and couldn't get them to, you know, end up taking a pair of pliers, actually put it in there and pop the thing so you can fix it, just to show you how to fix a hole, you know. And this is the NRS designed these things. This is the same stuff that, you know, rental duckies, rental whitewater boats, and run through the Grand Canyon. So I mean, if it can handle the Grand Canyon, it can handle the Chattahoochee. I promise you that.
Oh yeah,
So,
it's PVC material inside and outside. It's, you know, it's nylon fat. It's really, really good. That drop stitch technology, to me, the ability to hold in that much air, and you know, I know there's a max PSI, but you really don't need to go that far on it, you know, for the most part. But man, I loved my time on it. A frame seat and lockable foot pegs on an inflatable.
And that seat's comfortable. I mean, I sat in it in the yard. That seat's comfortable. And Jameson told, you know, of course, he's the one that he infects me. He's the reason I spend most of the money I spend anyway. But
they're trouble together.
Yeah, we're not good together. Last time I went fishing with him, I ended up blind. But anyway, but he explained it that the inflatable rides on the water, whereas all other boats we have cut through the water. You know, they're literally displacing the water to get it, but the inflatable is riding on the water, so your draft is like floating in a puddle of spit. I mean, it is nothing. And then so to be able to push up and over and through moving water, and that's what I'm very anxious. I'm going to go run it up in that same place where we ran the X. I'm going to go wreck it. I'm going to go see what it'll do, and hopefully have that video coming out before too much longer. But I'm really, really looking forward to getting that one on the river.
So tell me about, give us a health update. How is the eye doing?
It's much better than what it was. For the folks that don't know, when Jameson and I went down to fish for the snook trip and the Everglades, and I ended up losing my sight on the way down. And what had actually happened was an artery blew out in my right eye, had a stroke in my right eye. And of course, the docs all thought it was from my heart. So I went on all kind of heart tests and getting poked and prodded and, you know, scanned and everything. And they're like, we don't see anything wrong with your heart. Well, the eye doctor finally was the one that figured out and said, no, man, you've got a parasite in your eye,
infection,
and an infection. And that parasite, the cysts from the parasite actually caused the artery to blow out in my eye. So I've got from 9 to 11 in my right eye. I can't see at all. It's nothing but a gray, you know, I can't see headlights through it or anything like that. And the rest of the eye it's pretty trashy. I mean, I don't see it. It's got to be big letters for me to read it. But the blessing was that it actually blew out, because if that hadn't happened, I could have, with this Toxoplasma gondii, which is the stuff that's in my system, I could have lost both eyes. So, you know, the stuff that, and it comes from, you can get it from a cat. That's the reason pregnant ladies aren't supposed to clean litter boxes. But you can also, for us, rest of us, we have to eat it. So if it can come from having deer that was never gone to the freezer, which, you know, we all kill the deer and cook the tenderloin without freezing it. So that, and that's stuff that we all do. But there's a lot of different ways that you get it, and like 60% of people have it in their system, and it doesn't affect them at all. I just happen to be a unicorn for whatever reason. But we're doing much better. Thank you for asking.
Good deal. Yeah, she's nerding out on the science. I forgot that she didn't watch the video. That she was asleep and I was watching it. She teaches biology and microbiology
Yeah.
over at the college here.
Yeah.
So she, she said like, oh yeah,
yeah. I was gonna ask, but you immediately said species name. I was like, all right, we're good.
Yeah. And it ended up, I got like 13 shots right in the eyeball, which I don't recommend. 0 stars on that. But yeah,
no
and
fun,
they've
man.
got no fun. But the last trip I didn't have to get a shot, and they moved my next appointment out for like 6 weeks. So things are improving. I will most likely not get back to 20. I know I won't get the blind spot back, and the rest of it won't get back to 2020. But I'm much better. It just
He's adapting.
I'm adapting because my depth perception is horrible. So now if I cast into a tree, I have something to blame it on. So.
Absolutely, because good sight doesn't help much with that. And I just
squirrel fishing,
and us going on the river. It always like to say is like it's like hitting a moving target when you're not good at the target anyway. And because I do everything. I'm the guy that takes too much stuff and ends up throwing the same 2 or 3 things that I always throw. I'll probably take a little river. My favorite lure here lately on the rivers are those little. It's a size 60 whopper plopper.
Oh, neat. Yes, sir.
And I absolutely love those things. The problem is you can't find them hardly anywhere. We had to go up to a sporting goods store in Springfield, Missouri, which we were just kind of planning a trip up there anyway. But it's a small little, I think it's like a little 2.5-inch whopper. And I just work it like a popper. I'll pop it, pause, pop it, pause. And my favorite thing to catch on those is those rock bass or, red eyes or, them things hit like hammers and you think you've got a big smallie on. And then all of a sudden it's a little fish like this. It just really had that ambition in them.
TRD crawls is what I use for the rock. I love them TRD crawls, hopping them along.
We do a lot of net rig craws, rage bugs, anything like that. But yeah, we're looking forward to it because it's we went on the Buffalo here. It's been a couple of weeks ago, or has it been a few weeks ago?
March.
And March. That has been a minute.
Yeah.
A little bit of higher water, but nothing crazy. And I did 2 of these stupidest things I've done on a kayak, and just paid for them dearly. And I haven't put the video out yet, but I've got it. I dumped it twice. The first time there was a tree stump sticking up out of the water. It was just turned over. It was the root system. I'm like, oh, okay. And then I saw them on the left side of it. And I was like, instead of doing what they did, paddle around the right and then eddy into it, I just thought I was going to paddle really hard to the left. Well, there's a current going right in front of it. And when I say stupid, I saw this. Like, this is all in front of me. So I thought, okay, I'm just going to jam it in there really fast, kind of go far to the left and then drift to the right. No, that thing hit my nose. I hit it head on like I was just playing bumper cars. It threw me off the front of it. And then to make matters worse, my anchor that I had on the bow, the claw anchor got hooked in the stump.
Good.
So there you go.
That's not good.
Yeah, Uncle David Outdoors was with me. And of course, him and my wife are over there just wondering what the crap I'm doing. And to make it even worse, I like fishing with those little Rebel craw baits, those little crankbaits.
Yes, sir.
Both of those got stuck in the rope for the anchor. So when I went to grab and get it out of there, I got stuck with those treble hooks.
And they are razors. I mean, those little hooks are so sticky.
And I'm just the whole time, I'm just shaking my head because first of all, I knew better. And then I'm doing everything wrong here. And then to make matters worse, once I went through the left there, it was so shallow there. I assumed, I thought that they had gone that way. So I was like, oh, okay, I can just run it in there real fast. And no, there was like ankle deep water there. So I was like, and then the second time I hit it a little crooked, and the current grabbed the secondary and tipped me over. And of course that video shows all of my gear on the bottom of the river as a GoPro in the behind is floating by it. And I'm like,
oh no.
I said, worst thing to happen. I lost one reel. I lost a battery, and that's really it, wasn't it?
Glasses and
my sunglasses, yeah,
and a battery.
the battery.
The battery, but also the battery.
Yeah, the battery
charger.
bank. All the time that like sucked the wind out of me because I'm like, you're an idiot.
Yes. we often pay for that stuff,
Oh
but
my
it's
God.
either it has happened or it's going to happen. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
you know, if you're spending time in moving water, and that's what poor Miss Jean when we were over on the Coosa, and it was wild because Angie ran the line and she ran it real good, ran it real close to a rock. It was close. She come close to a rock, and Miss Jean came in right behind her and was just 1 foot over, so her skeg hit the rock. And she did what everybody does when you hit something, you quit paddling, and when you stop paddling, you lose your stability. And we of course, you know, we were all downriver and set up just in case, and got to Miss Jean pretty quick. And I think we unfortunately lost one of her rods, but I mean that it was interesting watching that Liska. You know, it was actually upside down with her J crate strapped in it, but I mean everything there stayed together, but we did end up losing one of her rods. And I hated that for her, but she was a trooper for trying it because, you know, that, like I said, we either going to sit on the bench or get in the game. It's up to you. But she made it the rest of the way. Yep.
The crazy thing about it is the two currents that I dumped in were two of the mildest currents that we were in. So that's what irritated me the most was the fact that I can maneuver a lot more technical stuff. Now I'm by no means a whitewater expert or even a novice on whitewater, but you know, I could move around the boat pretty good. But just the fact that I did that and then sitting there thinking, you know, and I'm my own worst critic. So I'm just sitting there like, that was the stupidest thing you've done and probably since we met. You know, I mean, that was really, really dumb.
She's not saying
well, yeah. In a long list of really dumb things, it made the list.
Yes.
I genuinely felt bad for him because I mean this is March, so the water was, I want to say like 55, it was like 55 degrees.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he dumped half a mile in.
Oh.
Yeah, it was really the stump was really, really early. And it's funny because I'm in a $1,700 kayak and we're watching grocery store kayaks just going by, just like, hey, are you okay? And I'm just like, yeah, I'm fine. I'm just
I'm a pro. I'm just shooting this video for educational purposes.
Yeah. we're doing a how not to video.
And, I mean, I can relate to Gene 100% for one reason. I had something very similar happen to us on the same exact trip. But it was a tree stump. It was a tree that was kind of leaning over this way. And so I saw Uncle David outdoors maneuver it. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, he barely got through it. And I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. And at some point, I saw the tree coming toward my head. And so I stopped paddling like an idiot and tried to push off of it.
Yeah.
And I did not know. I thought I fell left. I thought I fell left for like the longest time. He's like, no, you fell right.
Yeah. So when she braced against the tree, it pushed the kayak out and she just fell to the side. When I saw her reach up, I'm like, oh, don't do that. Because at worst case, you know, you can kind of duck a little bit because it wasn't crazy, but it was one of them little bends and you had a tree that was kind of sticking out like that. So, you know, me and David kind of paddled through it. And again, I can maneuver that and I can't do just a little. And then when I saw her do that, I'm like, oh, shoot. And then, you know, the thing that you want to do when you dump is you're automatically in self-preservation. You're trying to grab your gear and stuff. And I was like, don't worry about that because me and him are kind of downstream. We'll kind of bank up a little bit, waiting on her to go through there. And, you know, I never like her being the last one in the line.
Last.
Yeah, you weren't.
In the middle.
But, you know, there's that way if something dumps, you know, we're not having to paddle back upstream to, if something, you know, God forbid if something, you know, pinned you down or anything. So
that's the way we set up with Miss Jean and Angie. We had me and Jameson down, and then Clay Grace and his boy were behind us. So we had folks covered on both sides for rescues, and we figured out a couple years ago how to use a cam strap for helping your bride get back in the boat with the
or the weaker person. We keep saying, you know, wives and husbands. You know, sometimes it's the wife that's actually the one who is the better paddler or the one that's more into fishing.
We
So-
do the stupider things. That's why women live longer than men. You know,
There you go.
we're you guys are taking the safe way, and then we're like, I could do that. Let's send
Yes.
it. You know, let's just go. There's some fish over there. I'm going to go there. Get it sideways, hit a rock at that last minute rock that you didn't see, and it's. But yeah, I mean, and you were saying it. So I'm going to pivot just a little bit there. So Jackson's lineup has really kind of evolved or changed over the last just couple of years. Mm-hmm. And you mentioned a boat that I really, really, really wish they would bring back, and it's the Liska.
Oh yeah.
I was a big fan of the Coosa, obviously, but for a bigger dude like me, the Liska was one of my favorite kayaks. It was like it's similar to a Coosa, but with a little bit more stability, a little bit rigged up. I like the gear tracks a little bit better than the ball mounts, me personally. But man, but I always tell people with the Liska, when it was out, it kind of got lost in the bunch. So that's when Jack
did, and
Coosa,
that was one of the.
Yeah,
it came up between it and the U-Pick, from what I understand. And at the time, the U-Pick sales, and I'm not a U-Pick fan. I've never been. It was not my. I loved the Liska. The Liska to me was as close to a perfect kayak but I'm also an incredible bite fan. I mean, and a lot of people don't care for the bite, or they think the bite is it's the low end of the spectrum in the Jackson boats, that it's an economy level. But I mean,
it's
bite is
an
incredible. I mean, it is an incredible boat to paddle, and love it. And I don't have to worry about. The hatches don't mean a thing to me. Consoles don't mean a thing to me. And Liska, that's the first thing I took out was console. Same thing with Coosa HD. I took that console out. I want floor space and a huge tank well. That's what I want. But you are correct. The Liska was to me, it was as close to a perfect boat, even in the weight range. It was a good, stable, great paddling boat. Still had the high-low position in the seat, trimmable seat, and it was a darn good boat. I hated to see that one get gone.
And right now, you can do the upgrade. You can do the seat sliders system they got. You can mount that on the track. So like in Jackson, if you're listening, bring back that Liska, man. Because I remember it was when I first started. It was in 2021, early 21, and I'm learning the boats and stuff. Like the things that I'm not super familiar with, and so Jackson had the Coosa HD, the Liska, the U-Pick, the Big Rig HD, the Big Rig HD FD. Like there were so many kayak. And the Kilroy HD, the Mayfly, and like there were so many boats, and they were all within like a $600 price range. So like all of them were within that. I think the U-Pick was $12.99, which I think is what made that such a great selling boat at the time, and all the way up to that's when they dropped the HD down, the Coosa HD down to $15.99. So like everything was just so log jammed there, and everyone always overlooked the Liska, and it's one of the things now that it's pretty much the U-Pick and the Coosa X, and the Bite Angler, which but I would really like to see Jackson get back to the river fishing kayak. So I know, the Coosa X obviously, but like something like, I know why they can't do the Coosa anymore, but similar to it, a lighter, kind of simpler design.
The X, when we started, that was my ask. I begged for that. But it's funny because everybody says, "Oh, we got it." You look at what folks want to have. They want rod tubes. They want storage. They want this. They want that. And it's like every part of that you put on it's going to add weight. And that was why that boat ended up. It's got so many features. Now, when we set it out in the parking lot and 4 professional, whatever you want to call us, kayak anglers picked it up, all 4 of us guessed wrong on the weight. All 4 of us guessed that it weighed less than what it did. And that's like I said, the people, the industry, like, oh my gosh, it's a 90-something pound boat. Yeah, it's a heavy boat. On the water, you will never feel that. It is an incredibly nimble boat. And that was part of my problem is like when other manufacturers are fluffing their numbers with that smoke and mirrors, I would love for people to really weigh their boats. Go ahead, do it, pal. I'll sit here and wait, because I bet you yours weighs more than what you think it does and what your manufacturer said it does.
Yeah, and I've heard, I've thought about doing that video, and then there was a couple of other people out there that had already talked about doing a video where they were going to do it like an MMA weigh-in. They got the tail of the tape, 2 kayaks, and then actually weighing them.
Right.
I think that would be a phenomenal idea, because there are some kayaks that we have weighed for people, and yeah, like some of them were accurate almost to within a pound. Some of them were 5 or 6 pounds heavier.
Like I said, the one I run in now, it was advertised at 63 pounds, and it was 72.4 or 75.4 pounds on a medical grade scale last night. I did it last night.
Yeah.
Because I picked it up and I'm like, there's no way this thing feels heavier than my daggone bite,
Yeah.
So I
to me, handles make a big difference too. So the classic example of that, me and her did a video on, we did a comparison between the Crescent Shoaly and the Bonafide RVR. So these are 2 kayaks that are around the same price. At the time, they were like $50 apart. And on paper, the Bonafide weighed, a few pounds more,
84,
85.
And then I can't remember what the Shoaly weighed, but it was 78.
Yeah.
And that's what they say.
Yeah,
that's what they say.
They've got that little fabric handle that kind of comes up a little bit more, and you could use it as a drag strap, which I think is a cool idea. But man, I don't know what it was, just those little long-handled straps that kind of create that little pendulum swing.
The comfort carry straps.
Yeah, that thing felt like it was 10 pounds heavier than the Bonafide was.
It was rough.
And that was the first thing. And that's why I always like having her on some of the videos. Was me, I know all the specs and the boring stuff and all that, but like having somebody giving a perspective that you can get lost in the weeds on the science behind things and the design, just how it feels in your hand. And,
right.
River kayaks, there's not a lot of boat ramps down on some of these rivers. You're going down some rough terrain. And if you got a kayak that you don't want to drag 10 foot, you're probably not going to want to drag it through the woods or drag it,
right.
But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing where the industry goes with the lighter throwing goes, specifically river fishing, because that's kind of what I'm passionate about. But
my ask before I left Jackson, and y'all know we left, and I mean, it was a wonderful ride. And
they're still family.
They're still family. I love Jackson, I really do. But I've always, from the start, I've said what I didn't like about any boat that I've ever been in. I said, if Jackson ever stopped me from speaking my mind, I would have left. And that's not why I left. But we left because of health reasons. My mama was in bad shape, and we lost her in February. And just that, and then the eye and possibly the heart, everything. It was just like, I just didn't need stress. So we left, and then said it was going to open up hopefully some doors for us to be able to test different boats, talk to different manufacturers and do stuff and help people get on the water with stuff that may not be a Jackson,
Yeah.
But I mean, we love Jackson as a company. We love the boats that we paddle now. But I asked the one thing that I would love more than anything, and for Jackson to come out, would be to take the hull of the Coosa X, shrink it down a little narrower.
Yeah.
Make a board style boat out of the X. So something along the line of that SKF 117 or the K Craft, but on the Coosa X frame. And so shrink it down, something that's river capable, but it'll end up in that 70-pound range or 75-pound range at the most. Lose the rod tubes, but give us a way to lash rods on top of it. And that would be something that, and I even gave it a name, and I'm not going to say it because I hope they use it, but I turned in that design, and it would be kind of like what I hope the superficial, which I was never a fan of the superficial. The nose was too blunt. The superficial needed the supercharger nose. If the superficial would have had the supercharger nose, it would have been a world of difference. But to me, if you end up with a boat kind of like that superficial, but I wanted on the Coosa X, that running, I guess the hydrodynamics design of that hull in a board style boat where you could get that weight down, still have that wonderful seat, have the tri-track down the side of it for lashing stuff on and for picking it up and down, and it would end up in that 70 something pound range, dude, that boat would mash the market. It would crush the market.
I agree. I think the just things that I've seen, and again, I'm got blinders on to my specific area, obviously. So we're very river and creek heavy here. We got big lakes, obviously, but I'm starting to see a transition from your big, heavy, lake kayaks. Don't get me wrong. There's always going to be a place for those. Putting motors and pedal drives and sonar and forward facing, all of that stuff. People are starting to transition back to simpler, lighter throw and go. Maybe during COVID, they had a bigger budget. Maybe they had some stimulus money, whatever. And they went out and they bought some kayaks that maybe weren't the best kayaks for them, but they were the big, fancy, shiny new toy. And now people are starting to trade those in or sell them and then go with something simpler, maybe more wreck friendly that they can still fish off of. And the companies that are that are adding those kind of boats to the lineup, I think are setting themselves up to maybe cash in on that, hopefully, because I still think the river and creek fishing market is really underrepresented. So you got the Coupe X with Jackson, you got maybe the Flint with New Canoe, you got the RVR with Bonafide, and the Sholey with Crescent. There's obviously other boats that can do that, but of all the lake setups out there, there's companies that have 6 or 7 lake boats and no creek fit, no creek boats or no, like I still run a Tripper 12. That's one of my favorite fishing setups. Just simple, performs well in the water, plenty of room, plenty of control. And again, you got that great frame seat, obviously, which, Jackson's one of my favorite seating options out there. And we've been kind of hitting the market a little bit more with the Sweet Cheeks too. So,
yes, sir.
We've run kayak cushions for years, and we did the video on the Sweet Cheeks, and it was Richard Penny. He's our new Jackson rep, and he was telling me about that. I'm like, well, I've never thought about that, and sure enough, it took me a minute to kind of learn how to do it.
Right.
Videos of people sucking air out of it.
Yep.
I was telling her, like, we really don't have to do that.
It cups your bottom like a little angel holding on to you.
But yeah, we had fun doing the video, but it really was. It was a customized padded seat to your individual rear end. And to me, that takes
all day comfortable.
Your pressure points off and all of that. And I've been hard on Jackson on a couple things, but it's because I want them to succeed. I'm a Jackson guy deep down. I enjoy stability and performance in one kayak. And I always thought they've done that best. I just, as much as innovation has happened in the market, I'm actually excited to see what Jackson pulls out in the next, 2 or 3 years, and shoot, maybe even next year. You never know.
Right. That's me too. And that was one thing I was afraid that they spread too. Of course, I'm not a peddler at all.
Yeah.
So I started falling out of love when we started dealing with pedal boats, because that is not my thing. I run paddles, and I'm going to run a paddle, and I'm going to stay doing that, and maybe put a trolling motor on it, on down the road when I'm too old to do that. Of course, we have a Torqeedo now, but I mean, I just don't see the need in a pedal boat for me. I don't like them.
Well, I mean, they're okay in certain applications. I think the motor is kind of taking away from that a little bit. Because you can put a motor guide on pretty much any new boat coming out on the market. And right. I use one too. It's nice to be out there if I'm night fishing or out there on a windy day, hit a button and really fish an area really good. But paddling, and that was always my one thing with Jackson was they have so many pedal drive kayaks right now, and it almost dwarfs the paddle. And I feel like they've kind of moved away from the paddle a little bit. Obviously not
their roots were paddle, and that's exactly. To me, it's like I think to stay true to yourself, and I think we should have kept a really good river and then get the one that you can deck out with your motors and everything else like that.
Yeah.
I think we need a really good salt boat, which I thought the Cuda HD to me was my favorite. Now I know I didn't have a Kraken, and a Kraken was a wonderful boat, and I know it was. But for me, I still like something I could stand in. And I couldn't, the OG Cuda and the Cuda 14, I didn't stand well in it.
Yeah.
The Cuda HD, I could stand in. And I thought it was a great paddling boat. And it was good on the salt flats and everything else. I think you really need something that folks can use in the salt bays and flats. We definitely need our river. That's where, I didn't get into kayaking to go do stuff where other people can get to with power boats and stuff like that.
Exactly. Yeah.
I didn't get into that because I've got a power boat. I can do that. I can go to those places, but I don't want the noise. I don't want the company. I fish by myself 99% of the time. If she's not with me, it is rare for me to fish with somebody else. I would much rather just be out there alone. And and that means nobody else on my lake or my river. Get off. I want to be by myself where it's quiet. And that's why I got into the kayaking and the canoes and love that sort of thing for it. And I think if Jackson could see its roots and get back true to its roots, I like I said, the company's great. The people are wonderful. They're family. I love them to death.
I tell you what,
and I hope the best for them.
Yeah, there's a lot that's being made, and I see it on videos and stuff where people are focused on warranties and customer service, and so for one, I always tell them, your paddle shop, that's your customer service, not there's no ivory towers in the paddle sports industry. Jackson's home office is not this, doesn't look like a big cathedral. It's they're working there.
Well, you guys are that first line of defense against somebody buying something that they hate. And I'll tell anybody, just because we had a wonderful shop here. The folks that ran it, unfortunately it's closed up, but Outside World was a wonderful shop. And the cool thing was you could go down there and all right, that's how I ended up in the Commander. I went down there and said, I like to take pictures. I need something I can carry camera gear in. I'm used to being in a canoe. And everybody, have you thought about, Commander? It's like a canoe, paddles like a kayak, has a good seat, and that's how I ended up in the Wilderness Systems Commander 140, was actually going and talking to the shop. Well, then after the relationship with that shop, and of course the Black Creek Outfitters down there in Jacksonville, I went down there and told them I want to get on the river. I need something that I can paddle that can handle my weight, possibly take her with me, and that's why we ended up in the native 145. And having the ability to speak to somebody that's not just they're not trying to make a sale, they're trying to make a customer, they're trying to make a return customer and a friend, and that makes all the difference in the world. Is the shop difference is because if you sell something that people aren't happy about, you've lost a customer for life, and you've lost all that sale going forward for life. If you sell something they're happy with, they're going to come back and they're going to tell their friends, and it's funny because anything we've gotten into, it kind of affects the people around you. And pretty soon you got buddies with kayaks, and then you got buddies that are this, and it grows and it grows and it grows. And that's what you do when you, at the point of sale, become that really a friend, not necessarily, it's not even a customer relationship. You're treating them as a family member. And it makes a huge difference in how people see it.
And contrary to popular belief, and again, I can't speak for other paddle shops, but we don't work on commission. So whether someone buys a $600 boat or a $6,000 boat, it doesn't do anything for the people they're talking to. Obviously the owners are happy with when we sell a $6,000 kayak, but I'm fortunate enough where I work for a family that just really prioritizes service. I'm huge on customer service, and I'm not trying to ring my own bell there, but from me, if somebody's going to come into a store that I'm managing and they're going to spend $1,000 or more, or just any kind of money that they have worked for, I at least want to make them feel like they're valued.
Right.
And because that's what I want. When I'm okay paying a little bit more on some things if I just feel like they appreciate me coming in to see them, because that's where, I know support local is popular to say, but us local companies, we got to kind of step up too to earn that. And what I'd say, I'm lucky enough to work for a place that does prioritize service, and it just allows me to kind of do the things that I can do to make it a better. I'm all about that experience. You know, when you can tell when you sell someone that first kayak. So this is their first time to get out on the water, and you've gone through the questions. You know, what kind of water are you floating on? You know, what have you given it? You know, are you fishing or are you recreational? Like, what are you wanting it to do? And then these are the two. So, you know, just kind of get them to sit in it, maybe demo it, and just really seeing that excitement when they're leaving. You can tell they're about to go get that thing wet here in about an hour. You know, and just that's my favorite part about working in the paddle sports industry is seeing them happy. Like, she's been there before, and she's sold a lot of kayaks too. She kind of comes in there to hang out a little bit, but you know, seeing them, oh, like, this is so awesome. Or you see them like, we're getting kayaks, you know, like, we're gonna that is awesome. That is awesome.
Sir. A whole new world.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. And I always tell them it's a disease, and working and managing a paddle shop does not help that at all.
No.
I always tell it's like being a crackhead and running the crack house. You know,
sir.
You're just
I would just sign my paycheck and hand it back.
And we've had guys that work temporary for us in the summer that, their check pretty much goes to the store because they picked out a kayak, and you know, I mean, and just seeing new people get into it, that's what I love. And then obviously, you know, I've got my regulars that, you know, have really got into it, and, you know, they're calling for advice or wanting to know that new stuff, and, you know, the events that we'll do at the store. I said, we've got a really nice community there, and those people that are watching, I would definitely say that you definitely want to support your local paddle shop, because like you said, some of those are going under. It's hard to really kind of make it. In a lot of those smaller shops, you know, maybe they don't. We're a specialty shop, so that's all we do. We just got nothing but kayaks. But some of those smaller shops, you know, they carry a few of them and they're doing what they can do. But when you see a manufacturer go direct to customer, which I'm seeing a lot of, you know, not a lot, but a few of those kind of starting to pop up, I don't think they realize that they're really kind of shooting themselves in the foot with that. Because when those paddle shops go out, that's less people talking to customers, pushing their product, and less people with that service. Because, you know, I know Charlie there at Jackson, my warranty guy, which big shout out to Charlie. But, you know, if Charlie's got 500 people calling him, you know, I'm sure he wears other hats. I'm sure he's just not sitting by a phone waiting for someone to call him on a warranty issue. You know, service will die with that. People get into the right kayaks will die with that. And a lot of times you can get better service, better pricing, even with that local shop dealing with, instead of paying MSRP online and having it shipped in and having the forklift run the forks through the kayak.
Right. Well, and China is sending boxload of stuff that they've stolen from us.
Yes.
You know, ideas that people have you know, research developed and tried and true things, and all they do is take it over there, copy it, and send it over here in a box. There's been no quality check. There's no customer service. You know, it's cheap, but guess what? It's cheap. It's stolen. It's cheap. You know, don't even get me started. That's
I would say I'm grinding my teeth here.
That got me all heated up.
Man, and again, when I get on like YouTube and I'm talking about, you know, quality kayaks, and you know, you're always going to catch flack because I'm like, well, you know, not everybody needs a $5,000 Hobie. I'm like, well, of course not.
Yep.
But
what you need to tell me, you didn't need a fishing rod either. You could have used a hand line, you bonehead.
Exactly.
How about that? You know?
Exactly. And so, and this has been kind of well documented with me on my other socials there, but there's a lot of companies out there that do the manufactured in the USA, and there's some deceptive marketing out there. So you're, like you said, you're getting hulls from China, from Taiwan, you're putting them together in, you know, any state USA here, and then you're saying manufactured in the USA, or, you know, manufactured here. And I'm like, well, to get the made in the USA, it has to be a certain percentage, which is a pretty big percentage, made and assembled here. Now everybody outsources, you know, plastic buckles and, you know, fasteners or something, but there's something to say about quality control process. And we interviewed Tyler Brown, which is the COO of Big Adventures. And that was one thing he said was the quality control process is in-house. You got people measuring the thickness. And I know Jackson does that too.
Yes, sir. The UT thickness.
So, making sure there's no weak spots in the boat. And don't get me wrong, it happens with everybody. Certain things happen and, but they get corrected. That's why you got the warranty. That's why you got, customer service with your paddle shops. But just seeing those quality kayaks, because we were like y'all, it was COVID and we were at the grocery store and you see kayaks just standing up and go like, that looks like a lot of fun. And then you get up and touch them and you look at them and like, man, like that thing is really flimsy. And if I wasn't a big dude, we probably would have bought it. Just getting in something like that, just sitting in it, I'm like, no, there's no way I'm going to be putting myself in that. And then, we had a paddle shop local nearby. So that's kind of what got us started in the quality stuff. And, rest is history, obviously. We're always teetering on the edge of bankruptcy, but, we just keep spending and spending. But we enjoy it. It's a passion. And, it's definitely good to talk to a couple more people that are passionate about the same thing there.
I mean,
definitely. It's been fun, y'all.
One other thing I have to kind of add to all of this is he talks a lot about getting people in the right boat. That is something that I can absolutely say that is what OMTC really tries to do. It's the reason that I go in and I volunteer my time. I'm coming off of work usually. I'm in school at the same time. And I'm usually with him. The reason I enjoy being there all the time is simply because getting somebody in the right boat and being passionate about that sport makes a huge difference.
Oh yeah.
Definitely. That's why on my videos, I usually end up with, hey, if y'all around, Phoenix City, Alabama, Smith, Alabama, Columbus, Georgia, if we can get you on the water, y'all come on. And we've had people say, hey man, let's go. And we put people on the water because not just to sell Jackson kayaks, but I mean, I want you to be in the right boat, but I also want you to know how to use it. So, we're going to teach you how to paddle. We're going to show you how to hold a paddle. How many manufacturers do you see that put pictures of people on that their paddles are backwards? It's like, or upside down. It's like,
upside down. Yeah. Upside down.
Just quit, and folks don't realize that those things are designed. It's like, you don't put the wings on a plane upside down for a reason. Yeah. It's meant to go one way. The paddles are the same way. It's meant to go one way. So but we and that to us it's been more of like almost a ministry of help, that we want to get you on the water to help people out, to enjoy what we get to enjoy, to just be blessed by what we're blessed to be surrounded with. It's good for your health, it's good for your marriage, it's good for your relationships with your friends. There's nothing bad to be found in kayak fishing and or just in kayaking in general. And we try to put that as our team effort to get people on the water as much as possible.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Well, hey, man, we're at an hour 17. So those that watch me and watch the show know I can probably talk another couple hours, but man, love to have you back on in the future here, and especially when Jackson or really anybody comes up with something new. Definitely love to hear your thoughts and input on it.
Sounds good, man. If y'all get a wild hair and want to come down and fish in the Okefenokee with alligators, y'all holler at us. We'll go down there and chase with, and then we got shoal bass here around the house. So that's a species.
Don't threaten me with a good time.
Everybody needs on their list. So appreciate y'all.
Hey, appreciate you, man. Again, thanks for coming on, and look forward to talking to you in the future, bud.
Sounds good. Y'all take care.
All right. Thanks a lot, Angie. Appreciate you.
Nice to meet y'all. Bye.
Absolutely.